What is gaslighting and how can one resist it? Signs, examples of gaslighting. We will discuss this in my video. So, let's get started. What exactly is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse that causes a person to doubt their own adequacy. In other words, a person does not understand where the truth lies and where fiction begins. This can even drive a person to madness. In other words, the person does not distinguish between where the truth is and where reality is. For example, a woman is at home and a man is openly cheating on her with traces of lipstick on his shirt and the scent of someone else's perfume, but he assures his wife that she has made it all up, that it is her madness, her form of control. And the woman starts to think that indeed, for example, something is wrong with her. Gaslighting is when your feelings and emotions are completely turned upside down and you are convinced and persuaded that it is not actually the case. In fact, how can gaslighting manifest? The first is the devaluation of feelings, meaning that you are experiencing something, you feel sad, bitter, or hurt, and in that moment you hear that you are just imagining it or that it was just a joke, and the victim actually perceives this joke too sharply and emotionally. This is from the perspective of the gaslighter. That is, when you feel bitter and hurt and you are made to believe that it is actually just some kind of joke and that you are overreacting to nothing, even though you genuinely feel uncomfortable about it all. And at this point, you start to doubt yourself. Perhaps the problem is indeed with you. This can be an indication that a gaslighter is nearby. The second sign is the distortion of facts in his favor. The man promised you something, said something, you agreed on something, and he says, "I never said that to you." This is a fabrication. This is not true. Either you misunderstood what you imagined. At that moment, the woman who has entered into a relationship with a gaslighter begins to think that she really mixed something up, that she made something up, and she starts to have doubts about what is happening to her, meaning about how she perceives information. At this moment, her self-esteem and self-confidence can start to drop significantly because she does not understand what is happening to her. Another sign is that, for example, the man behaves incorrectly because of the victim. That is, according to the man, the woman did not behave properly, and now this affects him, causing him to act wrongly because of her. Again, this is the suggestion to the victim that everything is happening solely because of her. Here she said something incorrectly. Here she misunderstood something. Here she misinterpreted something and turned the facts around. And all these suggestions make a person doubt, very strongly doubt themselves and their adequacy. Next, invent fictional flaws and constantly remind about them. For example, the gaslighter says that you are not capable of earning money, that you earn very little, and constantly suggests this to you, but in reality, you earn more than him. The victim often stops paying attention to the facts. When the gaslighter is at work, they instill in the victim what they need. That is, if a man, for example, suggests to you that you earn too little, the examples can be anything. Compare it with the contribution that the man makes. And you may be surprised that he earns less or invests less, but his task is to instill in you a sense of insecurity, to make you believe that something is wrong with you, which means either to gain complete control over you or he has some other goals and objectives. Pay close attention to your state when you are around such a man. He may also spread rumors about you, undermining your relationships with other people. For example, he might start saying that you are in some strange state of mind and that something is wrong with you, even making up stories and fabricating details. And when people react to you in a certain way because of, for example, these rumors, he starts to suggest to you that they are treating you differently, that something is wrong with these people. In other words, he pits them against each other, deliberately trying to create conflict so that the victim is completely under his control. In order for him, for example, not to be afraid of losing her, or he raises his self-esteem in this way, or he has some internal problems, or it is simply, let's say, an illness of a person who needs such games. But in any case, it is necessary to focus on your own state when being around such a person based on the phrases by which you can recognize yourself. If you start to think in your head that I don't understand what is happening to me, that I feel like I'm going crazy, that everything is not happening the way it should, or that I am perceiving everything incorrectly, that is, if you have thoughts that you are perhaps doing something wrong, that you are ruining everything, that you misunderstand everything, or if you even have thoughts that you are going crazy, then pay close attention to the person who is next to you. There are moments when gaslighting can be very, just extremely strong. So what feelings arise in a victim who interacts with a gaslighter. Firstly, there is dissatisfaction with oneself, a sense of frustration, a lack of self-confidence, grievances and disappointments, which create a huge complex of negative emotions. The victim does not understand what is happening, begins to confuse what is true and what is fiction, and does not comprehend what is going on around them. So let's talk about how to counter gaslighting. The first step is to communicate with that person and try to record the conversation. You can turn on a voice recorder, or you can carefully remember what this person is saying and then try to write everything down later, somewhere on a piece of paper, that is, to reproduce the entire conversation. Next, when you analyze the conversation, consider whether something is being suggested to you right now. For example, you talk about your feelings and you are told, "Don't make things up, that didn't happen, that's not true," and so on. If moments like these slip through during the conversation, it is quite possible that you are facing gaslighting. But do not rush to conclusions. Next, conduct a sort of external audit. That is, try to discuss this conversation with a trusted person, such as a close friend or family member. It could be your mother or a close friend, someone you can trust. To talk about your emotions, your experiences, what is happening in your life, and for example, to replay a conversation, to discuss the conversation that was recorded. And an outside perspective always helps to see the situation from a different angle. That is, if you have doubts and someone confirms that you are being manipulated, it means you are dealing with a gaslighter, a person who is trying, let's say, to break your inner world. Moving on. Conscious emotions and feelings are what you need right now. Have you experienced excitement? Think about it. Build a chain of why you are feeling anxious right now, whether this emotion belongs to you. Have you become sad? Have you become hurt? Try to trace the chains of where this emotion came from. Try to be aware of your emotions. And when emotions and feelings become conscious, it becomes harder to confuse you. When you understand that this is my feeling, I didn't mix anything up. I didn't make anything up. That is, I can be irritated right now, I can be angry right now, I can cry right now, I can laugh. All emotions are my emotions. In other words, I have the right to feel this way. Try to learn to listen to yourself, to be in contact with yourself, meaning to turn a little inward rather than outward. By understanding your feelings and emotions, you will realize what is actually happening to you. Moving forward. Keep records of conversations with the gaslighter. When he tries to tell you again that you made something up, or for example, that the conversation was verbal, meaning you agreed on something over the phone, try to follow up with a message stating that, for instance, you agreed that on a certain date you would go here and there, but you are afraid that the situation might be twisted later. Try to write this down, meaning send a message saying that on a certain date you are going here and there. When there is a record of the conversation, it will be easier for you to interact even with yourself. And the gaslighter will no longer be able to convince you that you have made something up. Therefore, keep the records of your conversations. Moments when you start to think that something is wrong with you, that you are going crazy, and that everything is somehow turning upside down around you. Find the saved conversations. This will help you regain confidence in yourself and understand that this is the influence of another person on you. And it is very important to establish your boundaries. For example, if in a certain situation, your opinions do not align, just end the conversation. State that your opinions do not align. There is no need to communicate, no need to prove anything, no need to persuade. Naturally, it is better to distance yourself from such a person. This person is close to you, either it is your man or it is some friend. But with such people, it is still better to keep a distance. Otherwise, everything can only change in the situation where the person who is engaging in gaslighting wants to change something in themselves in order not to treat others this way. If this person somehow needs to remain in your life, meaning you cannot stop communicating, set personal boundaries, and each time the person tries to violate them, make it clear that this is unacceptable. That's all for this video. This was Alice Wardomska. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Please write in the comments what you would like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, and goodbye everyone.